They say dementia is a slow goodbye. Not a dramatic, tearful departure, but a soft erosion, a quiet undoing, like the tide pulling sand from beneath your feet, so gradually you don't even realize you're sinking. At first, it was just little things. Forgetting where I left my reading glasses, putting sugar in the coffee twice, calling the neighbor's dog by the wrong name. He laughed it off. So did I. We blamed it on age, on stress, on just one of those days. But the days added up. Then came the morning I stood in the kitchen and forgot why I was holding a spoon. Not what a spoon was, but why I had one, where I was going with it, what I'd just been doing a moment before. I stood there for 10 minutes, frozen, staring at the walls, waiting for the world to make sense again. He found me like that, still holding the spoon. And instead of asking questions, instead of panicking, he kissed my temple and said softly, "Come sit down, my love. Let's have breakfast together." I cried that night, not because of the spoon, but because for a few seconds that morning, I didn't know where home was and I was already there. But the worst came 2 weeks later. He brought me tea just the way I like it, with a splash of milk and 2 sugars, and I looked at him and felt nothing. No name, no context, just a face, kind, familiar, but not his. It only lasted a second, maybe less, but it was enough to crack something inside me, something sacred. I didn't tell him, didn't want him to see me unraveling, but he knew. That night he sat beside me on the couch, took my hand and said, "Do you remember the rain on our wedding day?" I didn't, not then. So he told me about the way my dress got soaked to the knees, about the song we danced to in the church hallway because the reception hall flooded, about how I laughed, really laughed, when no one said, "Maybe wet beginnings make strong roots," and something in my chest opened. Not a full memory, just a flicker, the feeling of lace clinging to my ankles, his hand in mine. A thread. He smiled. "There you are," he whispered, and kissed the back of my hand like it was still 1961. The next morning he told me another story, then another and another. Because love, he said, is memory's last language, and he would keep speaking it until I found my way back. Dementia doesn't feel like forgetting, not at first. It feels like walking into a room where the furniture has been moved, like reaching for a memory and finding only the shape of it. No color, no edges, no meaning. People imagine it as darkness, but it's not. It's fog, thick, disorienting, familiar in its silence. You know you're somewhere important, but you can't find the door. You can't remember why you came in. And worst of all, you can't ask. Because somewhere along, I would walk through the house and forget what room I was in. I'd look in the mirror and feel disconnected, like the woman looking back was someone I used to know. Someone I maybe went to school with once. Not me. Names slipped first, then days, then seasons. Sometimes I would wake up in July and ask where the snow was, or call for my mother, even though she'd been gone since '88. It wasn't just confusing, it was shameful. Like I was vanishing in front of the man I loved and couldn't apologize for it. But he never let me fall into that silence alone. Every morning I'd wake up to his voice. Not loud, not rehearsed, just soft, steady, like a thread pulling me back from sleep. "Good morning, beautiful," he'd say. "We met in a library, remember? You were wearing a red sweater and pretending not to look at me." And just like that, a thread. Sometimes thin, sometimes frayed, but always enough to hold. He would tell me where we met, how we danced, how I hated tomatoes until I was 37, how I once threw a shoe at him during a fight about curtains. Some days, I didn't remember any of it, but some days, I did. Some days a word would land, a smell, a color, a name. And when that happened, when I'd say yes at the right moment or finish his sentence by accident, he'd light up like I'd just returned from the dead. He never stopped telling the stories, even when I stopped responding, even when I sat quiet for hours lost in the fog. He told them anyway, because he believed, truly stubbornly, that somewhere inside me, some part of me was listening. And he was right. Even when I didn't know who I was, I knew him. His voice was the lighthouse, the anchor, the warmth at the edge of the cold. And though I couldn't say it, every time he began again, every time he said, "Remember when," somewhere deep in the quiet corners of me, I whispered back, "Yes, please, tell me again." There's no ceremony in healing from dementia. No bright lights, no applause, no final battle with the fog. It comes in flickers, like sunlight breaking through half-drawn curtains. A warm second of clarity, followed by hours of gray. He understood that better than the doctors. They gave me calendars, pills, tests with shapes and colors I couldn't name. But he gave me stories. One every morning, sometimes two, and not just the grand ones. Not weddings or births or travels. He told me the small stories, like the time we got caught in a grocery store during a blackout, and I made shadow puppets on the freezer door to keep him laughing. Or the time I painted our mailbox yellow without asking, and the neighbors wrote a petition to make us repaint it, but he refused. Because it was your favorite color, he said. Still is. Sometimes I'd nod, even if I didn't remember, just to see him smile. But then one day, I did. He was telling me about our first apartment, how the roof leaked, how we ate on cardboard boxes for a month, how I used to tape little love notes to his lunch before he left for work. And suddenly, clear as glass, I saw it. The window that never shut, the floorboard that creaked, the exact way I'd written, "You're stronger than Monday," on a Post-it and stuck it inside his lunch tin. "I wrote that," I said out loud. The words surprised even me. He froze, then looked at me like I just pulled him out of the ocean. "Yes," he whispered, "you did." And we cried. Not because the memory had returned, but because I had. Even just for a moment, even just for one line. That night, he held my hand while I drifted off to sleep. And before I closed my eyes, I whispered, "Tell me about our wedding again." His voice cracked, but he began. With the rain, with the way my bouquet fell apart halfway through the ceremony, with how we slow danced in the church kitchen, just the two of us, barefoot on tile. And as he spoke, the picture came back. Not sharp, not full, but warm. Like stepping into a house you once called home. From then on, it became our ritual. He spoke, I listened, and slowly, painfully, the fog began to lift in places. I still had bad days. Days where I asked where my father was. Days where I called him the man instead of by name. But I also had days where I remembered the smell of his shirts, the sound of his keys at the front door, the way he looked at me when I said something clever. And the stories, they grew brighter, not just because of what he said, but because of what I began to say back. One day he was telling me about our trip to Rome, the heat, the scooter, the pasta, and I interrupted him. I hated the wine at that one little place, remember? His mouth dropped open. He laughed and said, "I've never been so happy to hear you complain." That night I kissed his hand, held it to my chest and whispered, "Don't stop telling me, even if I forget again. Tell me anyway." And he nodded. The morning it happened felt like any other. Cloudy sky, tea too strong, his voice at the edge of the bed softly saying, "Do you remember the beach house? The one with the broken porch swing?" I nodded, mostly out of habit. It had become part of our rhythm. His voice the metronome, his stories the melody. But that day something felt different. I was clearer, not sharp, not like before all of this began, but more present. I could hear the gulls in my mind, taste the cheap lemonade we used to drink on that porch, feel the sand between my toes, gritty and warm. And then, before he could continue, I spoke. Not just a word, not just a phrase, a memory. "You were wearing that ridiculous straw hat," I said, "the one that blew off every 5 minutes." He froze. I watched his mouth part slightly, eyes blinking slow, like he wasn't sure if he'd heard me right. I smiled. "And you burned your feet because you refused to wear sandals," I added. "You limped for 2 days but still insisted on dancing with me on the patio." He put the teacup down. It rattled slightly on the saucer. His hands were shaking. "I didn't think you remembered that," he whispered. "I didn't," I said honestly. "Not until now. But it was mine, wasn't it? That memory, it was mine." He nodded, tears already rising. And for the first time in months, he didn't tell the story. I did. I told him how we slept with the windows open, how we fought over the crossword puzzle, how we stayed an extra night because neither of us wanted to say goodbye to the sea. He just listened, silent, smiling through tears, one hand covering his mouth like he didn't want to wake the moment. When I finished, we sat in silence, a deep, full human silence. And then he said the softest words I'd ever heard from him. "Welcome back." It didn't last, of course. By dinner, I had forgotten what day it was. I asked him if the dog needed to be fed. We hadn't had a dog in 10 years. I called the remote control the telephone. But that moment, that story, it stayed. And from then on, the stories weren't just his. They were ours again. I began adding little details, filling in gaps, correcting him with a smirk when he forgot something, which to his dismay, he occasionally did. And every time I remembered something first, even something small, He lit up like I'd handed him a gift. Sometimes we told stories together, passing the memory back and forth like a sacred object. Sometimes I'd wake in the middle of the night and ask, "What year did we go to that cabin in the woods?" And he'd say, "1974, you wore that red coat and said it made you look like a detective." And I'd laugh and say, "Tell me again." Because that was the magic, the spell we cast over the forgetting, the thing we did not to erase the disease, but to remind each other we are still here. Two souls, weathered and flickering, still building a bridge across the fog, one memory at a time. I still live with the forgetting. There are mornings when I don't know what year it is. Mornings when I ask if my mother's coming to visit, when I look at the man across the table and for a moment wonder who he is, and then feel ashamed for wondering. But the shame doesn't stay, not anymore, because he never lets it. He just smiles, takes my hand, and begins again. "It's okay, love, let me tell you the story of us." And every time I fall in love with him again. Not because I remember everything, but because I remember enough. The way his voice feels like home, the way his laughter lands like sunlight on the floor, the way he looks at me, not with pity, not with sadness, but with fierce, patient devotion. That's what saved me. Not a cure, not a miracle, but his refusal to let me disappear. His choice, every single day, to pull me back with tenderness, to remind me of the life we lived, the places we went, the little things, and like how I always burned the toast but insisted on making breakfast anyway. There is power in being remembered, and there is even greater power in being loved through the forgetting. He never let me become a ghost. He never let the fog erase my name. He held the stories like a string of pearls, and every morning he laid them gently in front of me, not demanding I pick them up, but simply offering them. And over time, some of those stories became mine again. Not all, not forever, but enough. Enough to laugh, enough to hold hands, enough to say, "I remember that," and watch his eyes fill with joy. Not because I was cured, but because I was here, still. And maybe that's what love is at the end of life. Not a grand gesture, not the perfect memory, but the choice to stay, to repeat, to remind, to believe, even when the mind forgets, that the heart still knows. I don't know how much time I have. None of us do. But I know this: as long as he's beside me, telling me who I am, who we are, who we've been, I am not lost. I remember everything that matters. Not the year, not the street we live on, not the name of the doctor I never liked, but us, the sound of his breath, the warmth of his hand in mine, the story of our love, told 1,000 times, each one enough to bring me back. Because memory is not just what lives in the mind, it lives in touch, in tone, in the way someone holds you when the rest of the world has gone quiet. And that's what he gave me every single day, without complaint, without expectation. He gave me myself. And if you're listening to this, if someone you love is fading, or if you're afraid of forgetting or being forgotten, please remember this: you are not alone, and you are not gone, as long as someone keeps telling your story. So tell it, say it, even if their eyes glaze over, even if they ask again tomorrow, even if they forget 5 minutes later. Say it again. Because love is the one language that doesn't need memory, it only needs presence. And if this story touched you, if it helped you feel seen or remembered or just a little less afraid, stay with us. Subscribe for more stories like this. Like the video if it gave you something to carry into tomorrow. And leave a comment, a name, a moment, a memory, so someone else knows they're not walking this path alone. And if you missed our last story about the man who learned to speak again at 81 just to say, "I love you," one more time, go listen to that one next. Because even in forgetting, there's still love, there's still us, and some stories are worth telling forever.